Hey, it's Justin and Bethany with the Flack fam, and if you've been following us, you know that we're sharing our experiences from a Mediterranean cruise on the Disney Magic.
That's right, and today we're going to talk about our time in Rome. A 10-hour blitz is more like it.
It's true, that's one drawback to short cruises, less time in each port, but we won't complain at all.
Because we had such a short amount of time in Rome, we decided to make the most of it by hiring a private tour company instead of booking an overcrowded group tour through the cruise line or venturing out on our own.
If you've watched our video talking about the company we booked the private tour through, then you're already familiar with our experience. Well, at least part of it.
If you haven't seen that video, we'll link it below so you can. But if you have no intention of clicking that link, then let us introduce you to Alessandra and Marco from Limousine service in Italy. These two single-handedly made our time in Rome one of the most memorable days any of us have ever had.
Our day started bright and early. We were up around 6 a.m. Well, some of us were up even earlier because I can't sleep these days, but thank goodness I was because we had missed a message from our tour company. Quite a few messages over a couple of days, actually.
Yep, Justin forgot to tell them what cruise line we were on, so they didn't know where to pick us up.
See, waking up early paid off because luckily I caught them with time to spare.
We started our day grabbing breakfast on the ship and then heading down to meet our driver right at 7:30.
Marco picked us up in a black Mercedes van. He was amazing from the get-go. He had us laughing and feeling relaxed on our hour-long drive from the city of Civitavecchia to Rome.
Seriously, we loved getting to know him and hearing about his life. He even helped us polish our conversational Italian, which helped us not embarrass ourselves too much. Vacchia, right? Or is it?
Vecchia.
Vecchia.
Upon arriving in Rome, he took us to a cafe to grab an espresso and a pastry. Honestly, it was mind-blowing how amazing the food was. The croissant was made with orange zest and completely melted in our mouths.
For sure, it was like nothing we've ever had before.
After that short stop, we met up with Alessandra and started heading to our first stop at the Colosseum. This was the first of many moments where we were really grateful that we had booked a private tour guide in Rome.
Yeah, we pulled right up next to the entrance, much closer than the tour buses were getting. And after standing in the shade talking about the areas that surrounded us, we walked straight through security and into the Colosseum.
Alessandra talked to us about how, for many years, the Colosseum fell into ruin because society was changing. It was growing and advancing, and the buildings of the past were just there. In many cases, in the way of building what is now Italy.
She talked about the Catholic Church's role in tearing down the old structures and using the materials to build up the structures we see today, as well as keeping a lot of the art and sculptures as part of private collections.
She also talked about how the German and Italian armies scavenged through the Roman structures to remove iron that they could use to build vehicles, weapons, and ammunition during World War II, which is why if you look closely, you can see the holes in the stone walls.
It was even more fascinating that she told us stories about her grandfather playing in the Colosseum as a child, because it was just part of a city. There was nothing stopping anyone from entering, no efforts to preserve the past.
We walked through the different levels of the arena, talking about how clever the design was, so much so that it made it so that members of different socioeconomic classes never had to cross paths. They had their own entrances, their own stairways, and seating.
One thing that got me was how the stairs were slanted forward just slightly, which helped rush the flow of traffic and made the arena easier to clear out after an event.
We finally entered the actual arena and were able to see down into the tunnels under the arena floor to where the animals and gladiators were kept, and it was breathtaking. This was a bucket list item for me, and to be honest, I got a bit emotional and had to step away to save my manly dignity. Just joking. But it was something I've dreamed about my entire life.
After spending time exploring the Colosseum and the Arch de Constantine, we got back in the car and headed over to Circus Maximus, where chariot races were held.
Now it's used as an event space. To me, it looked like a giant park or just something off of a freeway. But my brother told me that when they were there, the Rolling Stones were playing.
This was also the first place that we got to experience the citywide drinking fountains, which was kind of fun.
White shirt.
Right. I was going to say, you're going to love it. It's refreshing.
Yeah, you gotta get the right pressure.
Okay.
Leaving Circus Maximus, we headed to the Altar of the Fatherland.
AKA the wedding cake. We didn't stop here. Instead, we pulled through into the roundabout and pulled over so we could get a good view and to hear all the reasons that the Italians weren't necessarily fans of this structure.
Leaving the roundabout, we headed to the Pantheon. Our driver drove us to the back of the Pantheon so we could see how the actual ground level of the Pantheon was below the street level, which was an ongoing theme throughout the day to show how the city of Rome had been built on top of itself.
Honestly, that's all of Europe, but it was still very interesting to hear about the modern buildings they were considering taking down in order to uncover the ruins that resided below them.
The Pantheon was beautiful. Being able to walk in and see the ray of light shining through the oculus was absolutely breathtaking.
We spent a decent amount of time walking through this once pagan temple that has been converted to a Catholic church. We looked at each of the chapels and tombs before leaving. I think this actually was your favorite stop, right?
Yep, I bet you could say that about all of Rome, actually. But it was either here or lunch.
You're such a dork, but in all seriousness, lunch was so good.
But before we get there, we have to make one more stop, Trevi Fountain.
We were very excited to see the real Trevi fountain after seeing the lame replica in Vegas last year. I feel like we redeemed ourselves.
Luckily, our guides gave us some coins to toss into the fountain to make a wish because we had completely forgot.
Arriving at the fountain was a little chaotic because there were so many people, but Alessandra knew what she was doing.
She also had no fear. She just moved people out of the way so that we could get up and enjoy ourselves.
She taught us the real way to make a wish in the fountain. Using your right hand, you toss the coin over your left shoulder into the fountain.
Although we did have a lot of opinionated onlookers telling us we were doing it wrong, only for Alessandra to correct them. Sadly, their coins were wasted because their wishes did not come true.
By this point, we were definitely ready for something to eat, and Alessandra asked if we had anywhere that we wanted to go. The only place that we had even heard about was actually closed.
She took us to a place just across from Vatican City called Osteria dei Pontifici. She even ordered for us, and it was amazing.
We had pickled carrots, grilled zucchini, bruschetta, cured meats and cheeses, margarita pizza, cheese ravioli, penne bolognese, and for dessert, the best tiramisu I've ever had.
We were so stuffed, but in all honesty, we could have eaten more because it was so good.
When lunch was done, it was time to spend the rest of our day touring Vatican City.
We drove around to the opposite side of the city where we entered through the new entrance. We didn't know it was the new entrance. We were just told it was the new entrance. It was clear that Alessandra knew what she was doing and that she knew most of the staff here, including the security.
We stood in a courtyard with St. Peter's Basilica in the distance, talking about why this location was selected and the meaning it had in the power struggle that was going on in Rome. In all of Italy, actually.
After leaving this courtyard, we made our way into another courtyard where we talked about the many private art collections we would see in the surrounding buildings, as well as talked at length about Michelangelo and his defiance of the Pope in his works for the church, including the Sistine Chapel.
We're not going to get into the details here, but it's worth looking up if you didn't learn it in your years of studying art history, like Justin did.
Even still, I learned a lot of things I didn't know.
We entered a private gallery that was mostly marble sculptures, and every new hallway had a new collection.
I think my favorite area was where we saw the sarcophagus of Constantine's mother. The craftsmanship and symbiology were amazing.
walked through gallery after gallery, including the Renaissance version of Google Maps in this hall of map paintings of Italy and all of its states.
We love seeing the beautiful artistry and skill that went into creating everything.
We arrived at the Sistine Chapel, and unfortunately, photos and videos are not permitted, but trust us, it's breathtaking.
It was a lot smaller than we expected. It was shoulder to shoulder crowded and so hot. But yes, it was breathtaking.
We exited down a hall that is apparently the Pope's hallway, and we were lucky enough to be able to go down that route because he was not in Vatican City that day.
After exiting the building, we made our way through St. Peter's Square on our way to the Basilica. As you can see, they were setting up chairs in preparation for a celebration the day after we were there.
Approaching the Basilica was amazing. Looking back over the square was even more amazing.
There are a few entrances to the Basilica, one that visitors can use, one only the Pope can use, and then there was the Holy Door.
We want to be as respectful to the Catholic faith as possible, so we have to admit that we may not have all the details 100% correct, but from our understanding, the Holy Door is opened only every 25 years.
And when it's opened, people from all over the world come to walk through the Holy Door because walking through the door will absolve you of all of your sins. Mark your calendars because the next time the Holy Door will be opened will be in 2025.
We worked our way from chapel to chapel looking at each Pope's tomb, but we were most excited to see Michelangelo's Pieta. Even from behind glass, the sculpture was amazing to behold.
Do you know what's almost as amazing?
What?
The reason it's behind the glass.
For those of you that don't know, in May of 1972, a geologist named Laszlo Toth walked into the chapel and attacked the sculpture with a geologist's hammer while shouting, "I am Jesus, I have risen from the dead."
He damaged Mary's nose, and that's why the world can't have nice things. Thanks, Laszlo.
Whether you are religious or not, St. Peter's Basilica, Vatican City in general, are awe-inspiring.
Forgetting any controversy behind how the art was collected, commissioned, or even the message the artists were trying to get across, this is one of the most historically beautiful places to visit on Earth.
Leaving Vatican City meant the end of our day, and sadly, that meant it was time to say goodbye to Alessandra.
This was hard. Even though he had only known her for 10 hours, she became a part of our family. We even asked if she wanted to join us for the rest of our time in Italy.
I'm sure the response she left unsaid was that she'd be happy to let us book another private tour in our next stop, but instead, she gave each of us a hug and walked away into the sunset.
The sun wasn't setting.
I felt like it was. It had been a long day.
We got back in the van with Marco and he drove us back to Civitavecchia, where we said another round of heartfelt farewells before getting back on the Disney magic.
We highly recommend booking a private tour of Rome if you're planning a visit. Yes, it's pricey, but there are less expensive and more expensive options. The value of having someone who knows how to navigate the city, understands the history, and not having to split a guide's attention with 80 other people and having to follow someone with a flag as you walk the city streets makes it worth it.
We will definitely be going back to Rome. It was absolutely amazing, and we only scratched the surface of all there is to see there.
Thanks for joining us as we reminisce about our time here. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the rest of our stops on our Mediterranean cruise.
See you next week.
Bye!